Hey guys, Glenn for GMP Custom Fabrications. Today I'm going to start a series of videos on my rat rod Sketchy and twin turbos. Okay, if you've not ever been to my channel before, my name's Glenn. I mess with rat rods and different car stuff. I'm going to be starting, today I'm going to kind of do an overview, start on putting twin turbos on my rat rod Sketchy. Sketchy has a Dodge 440. I've got a thumper cam in it, Pro Performer intake, Edelbrock intake. Currently have an Edelbrock carburetor on it, but that's going to be changing for this project. I come across a couple turbos on Facebook Marketplace, got a good deal on them, $150 for the pair, so I thought I'm going to have to try putting them on here. I've watched lots of videos on YouTube. That's the extent of my turbo knowledge. I'd like to definitely thank like Kyle from Boosted Lifestyle. I've watched a lot of his videos. He does a lot of stuff that kind of inspired me to try my own stuff. Now I am going more old school with this. I wish I had the budget for like a Holley EFI full-blown setup. It might be in the works later on, but initially I'm looking at doing converting a Holley 750 to blow through. Be doing a video on that. Just start you off the rough overview of what we're looking at. We got the manifolds, which I made. I'll be flipping these upside down where the outlet will be here. I've got flanges that I'll be welding onto the manifolds, mounting the turbos on, and that's what I'm hoping to get done in this first video is the flipping of the manifold. I'm going to have to cut the outlet so that it fits better to this here, and I'll show you all that here in a minute once I get the manifold off. Okay, this is a manifold that I made for Sketchy. It's kind of based on the idea like the old lake style roadster type out of box tubing. There's no efficiency or performance intent when I was building it. It's more for looks. So using this for a turbo application probably isn't ideal, but it's what I have right now, and it'll give me a good place to start. I recently bought a set of headers for a 440. Depending on how this all works out, and if this just makes it run horribly, or if it just too many issues with running this, I'll sacrifice the long tube headers and make a set of 40 turbo headers for it. But this is what I'm starting with. And as you can see, the opening here doesn't jive. So what I'm looking at doing, first off, what it will look like on the car is it's going to be mounted like this, putting the turbos right here. So what I'm looking at, what I have to do now, flange is going to have to be turned this direction. So look at saying, let's mark this there, here, there. What I'm picturing doing now is I'll thinking like along here and along here. Cut that triangle out. Cut this piece out, this piece out. Do it on both sides. So I'll also be cutting off from here, cutting that piece out. That's hard to see or not. Okay, so I'll be cutting that section out, and laying this down, laying it down, welding it back together, and that will give me my size I need to get to the inside of that. Otherwise, if I try putting it on like that, we're going to be going from that big to that small, and we're going to have so much resistance in it, it won't even get a chance to do good. So that's where we're starting at. I'll go ahead and take cutoff wheel, make them cuts, lay it down, and weld it back together. Okay, I've got it cut. You see me beat on it with a hammer. I still got some gaps to it, but I think that as I weld it, I'll keep beating on it, getting it closer and closer down. Then I have to go back and I'll have to cut this back so that it's level, you know, even all the way across there. In the case that I went too far, I can always come back further, cut back further, and open that back up as far as the area. And so that's fixable if I get carried away. For those of you that are new to my channel, I don't TIG weld. I want to learn to TIG weld. I want to get the equipment, but that's not in the cards yet. So you'll see me either MIG welding or arc welding. I'm going to go ahead and arc weld on this project today, just because it's what I got available to me. I got to get new wire for my MIG welder, and I don't have time to do that today. So let's go ahead and weld it up with arc welder, and we'll go from there. I guess I could title this series "Man Builds Turbo Setup" on YouTube without using the TIG welder, because I don't think I've ever seen it done, especially with an arc welder. I still got a couple high spots to knock down. And on the end here, I think they'll lay down pretty flat. Okay, I'm gonna get this tacked on first, get it in the right spot, and then I'll bolt the turbo onto it to help hold it, keep it from warping while I weld it together. At least that's what I think is going to happen. Okay, you can see I end up with a hole that's smaller than what my flange is. My plan is to go ahead and weld it. And once it's welded up good, I'm going to go back with a die grinder, radius that back out to match those together smooth. Now, I'm not sure what material these flanges are made out of. I did a weld test on them before, and I can weld to them. So I guess they're just steel. I mean, they look stainless to me, but they take a weld pretty good. So I don't know. Now, I won't be able to get to the corners good this way, but I think I can lay down enough welds to weld it good and solid. Then I'll take it apart and go back and hit the corners. I'm definitely a much better welder whenever I'm in a good position to weld. ABCs of welding, always be comfortable. This is the boombox position. See there, I do know kind of how to weld. That one don't look too shabby. Well, what I think I'll do is go ahead and take this bolt off the corner here. I'll go ahead and take that bead on around and then put the bolt back in it and do that going all the way around. I think that having 3 in there should keep it from warping while I weld on the other corners. We'll find out. Once I get one side done up, I'm not gonna record doing the other side. You can just trust me that I'm gonna go through just as much fun on it. I have to make sure these welds are good and solid for a couple reasons. Of course, one is so I don't have any exhaust leaks, but number 2 is this is a lot of weight to be holding out here. Although it's going to be held on the top side of it, so it's not going to be as bad. It still has to, you know, hold the weight of that all up. Nope, nope, it's hot. Don't you hate it when you know you have the right tool for the job and you just refuse to go get it? Well, I knew I had it, I just wasn't sure where it was at. One thing to add about being comfortable when you weld, something I've discovered is if you, even though it feels like I've got plenty of slack here in my cord, if it's got even just a little bit of resistance pulling it back when you're trying to weld and you're fighting that, it will fight you the whole time. So you always want to make sure you got enough cord. In fact, if you could get it in a position that it's not putting any weight at all on you, it'll make a world of difference. Okay. Hello?
This is Union Pacific calling for Glenn Hunt. Are you Glenn Hunt?
Yes.
Thank you, Glenn Hunt. You are called on duty as the conductor for the MASNP 09 at 14:15 Central Time. The current time is 12:15 Central Time. The train origination is C015 and the train destination is X125. Your engineer is potentially Edward Granger. Special instructions is, unless otherwise instructed after this message, report to Depot Yard. Chasing train toward Jeff City. Contact Disk 24 for location. Then to take crew to training and crew on train to Jeff City. Please make your selection after listening to these options. Press 1 or say yes to accept this call.
Yes.
Press 3.
Okay, so at the end of my videos, I always say, living the dream till the freaking phone rings. Well, the phone just rang. So I'm going to wrap this part up for now. I'm not done with this video, but there's going to be a break, and then I come back. And when I come back, we'll get this back together and go from there. And I'm back. Okay, yeah, that's what happens. I get called to work and I disappear, and then I get done working and I come back. This is the next day, of course, and I am expected to get called out later. Hopefully it'll be a few hours. Still get something done. So before I left, I had just welded this together, had bolted it tight to the turbocharger in order to keep it from warping. Let it cool down. Go ahead and break it apart now and see if I was successful. And then we'll address the inside and the any die grinding that may need to go on to radius the inside out. Okay, if I skip over anything that leaves a question in your mind on what I'm doing or reason I did something, feel free to ask. I'm usually pretty quick to respond. I don't get, thousands of comments, so I can pretty much address all of them at this point. So yeah, if you got any questions on how or why I did something, feel free to ask. Like I stated earlier, I'm new at the whole turbo thing. I'm sure I'm probably going to wish I had a filter for guys in their 20s that have been doing this stuff for since they were a teenager, that are going to know a whole lot more than I do, and hopefully they respect my elderness and don't treat me like a total noob. But and I'm sure I'll get a lot of comments on, well, why don't you just buy this or why don't you just buy that? For one thing, it's a rat rod, and that's not the rat rod way of doing things. If you can weld it together and build it yourself, by golly, that's what you do. So go ahead and now I got that off there. Go ahead and look at the inside here. You can see now I've got this ridge around the inside. I'll go ahead and take a die grinder and clean that up. First, I need to turn on the air compressor. All right, had to let the air compressor run for a little bit, build some air up, and someday I'll move it out into a quieter area, build its own shop or its own little room, so I don't have to listen to it. Now I get listened to an air leak because I haven't fixed that hose that I poked a hole in. So okay, it just occurred to me something funny that could have been done. Looking at it, was if I was to weld another pipe in between here, and so it looked like I had 6 exhausts on each side, just to really mess with people at car shows, because it'd been really easy to have done when I built them. But anyway, not today. I'll go ahead and bolt this turbo back on now that I have the inside cleaned out. We'll get our first look at, well, not officially, get this turbo on here and we'll get our first look at the positioning. Although not officially my first, I guess it'd be my first official. I have had it on here when I tacked it together at one time, but I had it angled differently, so it didn't look quite like it does now. And that's what we're looking at. Figure I'll come off with a little bit of an angle there, kind of follow that with some round pipe, because I'll have to have some place for my oxygen sensor to mount. So I'll probably do it over here. I have to come off that with a 90, down a little bit, maybe run it below it, down and then out here. Probably go ahead and move my overflow, get my air filters on here eventually. I've got that clocked about right for coming back up to the intake. I won't be running an intercooler on here. I don't know if I've explained this already or not. Through my research, I've been told that when you're running through a blow-through carburetor, just the nature of the gasoline going through the carburetor and atomizing reduces the air temperature, so it ends up dropping in temperature as it goes through the carburetor, where it actually has a cooling effect inside the manifold. So I'm going to hold to that. I'm not going to mess with any kind of intercooler. Maybe methanol in the future if it seems like it's not doing quite enough for me. Some issues that I know I'm going to get questions on about the turbos. Well, they're marked AR70 M14. I don't know what any of that means. I can go ahead and I can go ahead and take it apart and measure the turbines on it, and maybe I'll do that in a future video. I'll let you guys know what size we're looking at. I'll be the first one to admit that none of this is probably right. This is me getting my feet wet and setting up a turbo setup. I'm not expecting 1,000 horsepower. I'm not expecting anything of substantial gains other than, number one, it's going to look cool. So it's a show vehicle. It's not a drag racer. Hopefully we'll be doing some burnouts with it, and hopefully the turbos will help with that. I know I gotta get a stall converter yet, and probably 2700 will help. But as far as the sizing on these turbos, they're probably too big for this application. I don't know. I'm sure somebody could do the math for me and tell me what's proper for this motor. I looked online and I come up with different stuff, and most of the stuff applied to fully built motors with ported heads and blah blah blah, and I don't have none of that. And I have a crudely made exhaust manifold that would negate any gains that I'd had, probably anyway. Who knows, this exhaust manifold might be the most powerful thing ever made, but I doubt it. Just looking at it, you know, first off, lake headers, they wouldn't have had this extra area up here. That's purely cosmetic. I don't know what kind of losses I've created by having that void up there. Usually they'll have a 90 goes into the beginning of the header, and then it gets bigger as it goes out. Will this work? I don't know. It doesn't keep it from running, but as far as any actual horsepower losses or gains from it, I really don't know. I had a friend suggest flipping over the 440 stock exhaust manifolds, flipping them over and using them. They were way too restrictive, for one, and two, the angle wasn't right. They wouldn't clear. They were made to hug the block going downward, so coming upward they were in the way. The valve cover get clashed with them, so that wasn't an option. And like I said at the start of the video, I do have a set of headers that I'm willing to sacrifice and cut up to make a set of good turbo headers. You know, they're long tube now. I'm sure I can make a pair of short tubes out of them. Cutting them down, I've got an initial vision, and I'm going to see it through first before I go making changes. The idea is to get it working and see what kind of boost I'm making, and go from there. Hopefully I can kind of calculate some boost just from before I go through the trouble of creating making the blow through carburetor. Probably not. For one thing, I know I got an Edelbrock on there now, and if it has any boost at all, I believe it's going to just open that secondary up and it won't close. So I think that's what's going to happen if I try blowing through this Edelbrock. I do have a Holly that isn't on here because I needed to rejet it smaller, and it was easier for me to put this Edelbrock on there than it was to grab any jets. But I get it rejetted. I believe it'd be fine to test with, and then as I get the bugs worked out of everything else, then my next step will be to go ahead and do the blow through conversion on it. Or if money situations change, I will be looking at a Holly EFI sniper system. I believe that's the one, the throttle body type. There's a lot of people that make them. I have a friend that actually offered to sell me his I think it's FI Tech setup, but it was a 400 horsepower setup, and I really, that may have been enough. You know, that might be about where I would be at on this. If I knew that it would go to 450 or 500, I definitely would have jumped on it. He was going to give it to me for a really good deal, but I'm not, you know, if I'm going to go ahead and spend the money, I'm going to go with a Holly system. But, you know, got to have money for that. So we'll see. I got some other projects I need to let go of before I can go that route. But this is going to wrap it up for today's video. You can see what all I got done on the hot side here. I'm going to, off camera, I'll go ahead and duplicate this on the other side when the next video is going to be the oiling system. I'm going to have to figure out what is what here. I know this has a plate with a fitting in it. I've got an idea of what I want to do on it. See, the bottom on this one's not even capped at all, so I got to figure that up. Or not, it doesn't have a plate on it, so I need to figure that out. My thoughts was I was going to run hard lines to both sides, just because I thought that was a cleaner, more appropriate look for this vehicle instead of some nice stainless lines. Yeah, so that'll be the next video. I can't wait. So hopefully, if this is anybody's that's watching this your first time with one of my videos, I appreciate you sticking it out this long. I'm going to try to keep you guys entertained, try to keep things moving along in a timely fashion, try to get some stuff, get some results. Please, if you haven't already, subscribe. If you want to know when new videos come out, hit that little bell. You get notifications letting you know when new videos are released. Please leave a comment if you're here because you found a little black business card that had a QR code on it and you scanned it and went to my page and that brought you here. Let me know. I throw those things out everywhere. Let me know where you found your little card at. And yeah, if you guys just don't have anything else to comment on, just let me know where you're from. I know I've got some, I know a good chunk of my subscribers are from my Facebook page and are actually people I know, although they only make up 2% of the people viewing my videos. So I've got 98% of people out there that are total strangers watching my videos. So if you're one of those strangers, say hi, let me know where you're from, and I'm going to wrap it up for today. Be sure check out my merch page down below, Teespring. There's a link to it, and that's it. So this is Glenn for GMP Custom Fabrications, living the dream till the freaking phone rings. Thanks for watching.